So Gary was, what you just heard, he was telling a bit about the intended curriculum and how the teacher studies are organized. And in the Wiki Teacher Training School, my job is to teach my class, of course, but besides that, I'm supervising the student teachers, like actually now 6 different pairs during the year, and they are usually teaching quite many lessons. One student teacher is attending altogether 50 lessons that they are teaching, 25 of which they are responsible and 25 they are kind of assisting their pair. And as Jari mentioned, in primary level, meaning grades 1 to 6 in Finland, the school subject science, it is a combination of physics, chemistry, biology and geography. And then everyday life phenomena that are familiar for the pupils is central in the teaching. And in the following slides, we will take a bit closer look, like what the different aspects of primary science teaching looks like in a very critical level in Finland. And Jari already mentioned these different aspects related to science teaching. And I will start about the aims that are related to science subject knowledge. And then, of course, the starting point is examining the pupil's pre-existing knowledge so that the teacher will know where to start from. And if there are any misconceptions or anything, and that's what we are encouraging the student teachers also to start their sequences with. And based on our national core curriculum, there are many science topics that are dealt in the primary level. Usually they are related to somewhat larger entities, such as human being, health and safety, safety in traffic, some of them that I already mentioned here, environmental sustainability, diversity of nature or earth, energy, or so on. And when learning these science concepts, the pupils are guided to organize their own observations through using appropriate scientific concepts. We are guiding them to using these concepts even when they are speaking with each other, with their peers. And then the relations between science concepts that may formulate a kind of complex structure in the pupils' minds, they are illustrated with mind maps, and the pupils are taught to use many kinds of these graphical methods to illustrate the relations of different concepts to each other. And at primary school, we are staying at the qualitative level, so we are not counting anything yet, and that is left for Ari, so that we are making a qualitative basis, and then at lower secondary school, they are continuing more quantitative level. Okay.
So there are some pictures in order to support your understanding how we teach science in primary level. These pictures are coming from the project I was doing together with my Thai PhD student. We were analyzing the textbooks. And what we recognized in Finnish textbooks, we are using, we are supporting the student or pupil to meet the concept in different situations. We use different kind of text and graphical presentations, and these are examples how the student met an electric circuit in this kind of ideal situation and also in the lab. So it's not so grammatical, but compared to Thai textbooks, there is much more situation where the basic concepts are guiding students to make observations and analyze the situation. So this is in textbooks, and I guess that teachers are following in every country the textbook. So this is also coming to the classrooms. And another example, to push. You continue.
Yeah, I'm going to continue. And this picture that was shown in the previous slide leads us to the next aspect related to primary science learning, that is aimed related to process skills. So besides these two pictures, my pupils could have put a lamp in pieces and really take a look what's inside it, and of course build an electric circuit by themselves. And in primary level, the pupils are guided to make observations using their own senses and some very simple equipment, like a thermometer or stuff like that, microscopes, very simple ones. And then also these very basic skills related to science processes are practiced, like measuring, following the instructions in the right order, and working in a careful way, formulating hypotheses and or research questions, gathering data from different sources, using nature as a source, for example, and classifying and comparing the observations. So kind of lower order thinking skills, comparing, classifying, recognizing stuff from the observations, and such things. And Jari is going to say some words about this slide.
So very shortly. So we use quite a lot of time in teacher education to analyze what is observation, because it's quite complex actually. Students activate previous knowledge, and maybe procedural knowledge are needed in this observation situation. There are, in the situation, they are using different senses. They are touching, they are listening, they are looking. The variation theory, you should have different kind of objects you are observing, and you should somehow guide students to observe an important point of view. And in our textbooks, we quite seriously guide students to make observations. So what is the most important topic you have to focus? And next one, this is coming from the variation theory. When you are selecting the objects for science lesson, for observations, there should be variation in order to support the conceptual or building up the conceptual understanding. So different kind of lamps and so on. Next one. In many situations, observation and classification are combined. Where is the voice coming from? What is common with the objects that are making noise? What is common with other, compared to other objects that doesn't make noise? So the classification is quite often combined to observations.
And of course, one very important skill related to science processes is communicating one's results. So when the pupils are making their own experiments, they are also encouraged to communicate their findings to their peers and to the whole class.
Let's go.
Okay. Then one more very important aspect relating to primary science teaching is those aims related to the pupils' interest and engagement. And one very important aim is to awaken pupils' interest towards their own environment and those phenomena that take place in it. So you really don't have to go anywhere far to find very interesting phenomena, and the pupils may even be familiar with many scientific phenomena already that then will be conceptualized further. And one aim is also to foster the pupils' self-efficacy beliefs related to science learning, so that they would find themselves capable of learning these scientific concepts and the science process skills, as mentioned in the previous slides. And in the Finnish science classroom, the pupils motivation and interest, they are enhanced through offering the pupils autonomy over their own learning, offering them situations in which they can make decisions, and allowing them and encouraging them to take responsibility over their own learning. And in primary science teaching, we try to choose such instructional methods that would foster also pupils' collaboration and their physical activity that may be related to many of the motivational side of many of them.
One research area is what makes science learning engaging, what makes it interesting for students, how to support the development of situational interest in the learning situation. There are many things that has an influence to the situational interest. It can be divided to content, topic-based, and the task-based and knowledge-based. And in the textbooks, quite often this possibility to influence to this task-based, for example, introducing the topic to be learned in different contexts, so contextualizing. So if the topic is, for example, the structures are made in different situations. Or if the topic is, you can change, topic is about materials or elements and properties of materials. One interesting, as Anni mentioned, is environment and environmental context and recycling. This is a very nice environment for meeting the different properties of objects and also the chemical substances.
And for example, if we were examining the structure of objects, we would probably take a look at the pictures and then search for such structures from our classroom at first, and then maybe environments outside the classroom. And as what follows, I will offer you a quick glimpse on the Finnish way of organizing the primary science teaching. And these pictures are pictures of my pupils. I have a permission from them and their parents to show them to you. And these pictures are taken in my class. And we find it very important that the pupils experience autonomy, ownership and participation related to their own studying. And the pupils' activity in physical or mental level is also seen very important aspect. And when possible, the pupils may conduct some experiments related to the topic of the lesson. And the experiments may be conducted critically, or they may be ICT-based simulations, both of which you can see in these pictures. And one picture with about two girls lying on a mattress in a pile of pillows. So it's here to show you that, like, whenever it's possible, the pupils can make some decisions. They can, for example, choose the place if it's appropriate. So they can, of course, they can't go outside the classroom without my supervision or anything. But we have tried to organize different corners in the classroom so they can choose the most suitable place for them to study. And we do not have any own iPads for all the kids, but then we have some lessons that we may use ICT equipment as well. And the third picture with the 2 or 3 balls in it, it's from a lesson that was organized by student teachers. So I also encourage my students to take these aspects into account when they are planning their lesson, so that whenever they have their plan ready, they would put, I call them pupil activity glasses on them and watch or check the lesson plan if there is any student activity. If the students are activated and if it doesn't show, then they should reconsider the lesson plan if it's only about teacher speaking. So that is not okay. Then we try to use a wide variety in instructional methods. And because the pupils have different styles, how they learn best, and therefore various methods should be employed. And also the student teachers are encouraged to try all those methods, because then they can have their own idea about what is working and what is not, and what challenges do specific methods cause. And learning these collaboration skills is still very important in primary education in Finland, and therefore such methods they are preferred in science lessons. And the pupils are also encouraged to use these scientific concepts, so when the teachers are walking around the class, so they can participate in the pupils' conversations and foster the use of scientific concepts when the pupils are speaking about their investigations in the groups. And one very important aim is that the pupils would kind of autonomously regulate their own behaviors related to their learning, so they should be able to recognize their best way of learning and then act in a way that is best for them. And of course it's the teacher's responsibility, not just offering autonomy to everybody, because some students may have very, very poor regulation skills, so they need more, very much tighter structure, and then according to the pupils' skills, they are offered these possibilities to make decisions over their own learning. And then in Finland, the natural environments next to the school, they are employed very often. And the large picture in here, it's from the neighborhood of our school. There's a very little river, and in this particular experiment, the pupils were picking those water samples from the river, and then they are examining them further in the classroom, and they are even learning themselves to use the microscopes, for example. And going out is one way of meeting the scientific concepts in a different context, and thus foster the pupils' understanding of the meaning of these concepts. And going out to the nature, it also offers the pupils these positive experiences related to nature and natural phenomena. And they may start feeling positive about the nature. Finnish pupils actually go out to the nature very much, so this is probably the place the pupils may be playing after. When they are free from school, they may go to splash on this river before they go home. And then this out-of-school learning, it also may take place in other places than natural environment. We also have possibilities to support the contextual side of learning in other environments, such as museums or companies or science centers. Or the picture on the right, it shows a situation that an expert was visiting my class from the Helsinki University of Technology. And you may wonder what is happening in this picture with lots of snow. So this is where my pupils are walking towards the Museum of Technology. So sometimes we have these circumstances that are not supporting our aims, but if we agreed about going, so then we have to go no matter the weather. And actually it's a bit like this right now in Finland. And the picture on the left is from the Science Center, which you may also have in here. They are quite similar all over the world. And then one more aspect I would like to emphasize that is related to primary teaching and primary science teaching in Finland. So as Jari already mentioned, there are many different kind of pupils in all Finnish classes. There is a very, very wide diversity. But we have a system that the diversity is seen as a richness, and even though some pupils may have special needs related to learning, or some may have difficulties related to regulation of behavior or their attention skills or whatever, so they are welcome to the ordinary classrooms, and that is why we try to keep our classes quite small, so that each pupil has a place in the nearest school next to their home in their own classroom. Of course, sometimes if the child's condition is so severe that, for example, he or she is suffering from autism or something that he really doesn't do well or feel well in an ordinary classroom, then some other solution is searched. But usually there are very, very many different kinds of pupils in all the classrooms. And of course these difficulties may then take place in science classes as well. And in Finland we have a system that consists of 3 different stages of support. And the first of which is kind of a general level that reaches all the pupils. And it means that, for example, a primary teacher may offer a pupil a couple of extra lessons related to some topic if there is difficulties in understanding something. Then there is this enhanced support level. That means that if a certain child, for example, has a bit more difficult problems with attention, for example, so then a special plan is made with which kind of equipment, which kind of support this child can study in the best possible way. And then the third level is this special support level. And at this level, the pupil's status is like a special education pupil, but usually he or she is placed in an ordinary classroom with some extra support from special needs teacher, special education teacher, or like in this picture, we have a couple of lessons per week that we have a school assistant in our classroom, and then she will help those pupils that need some extra assistance. And the principle in Finland is that the pupils will be supported according to their individual needs, and usually even the pupils in the third level of support study with their own group. But with this appropriate support, maybe some equipment, some special equipment is sometimes needed, or whatever it may be. Or the assessment may be differentiated according to pupils' needs. For example, I have a boy in my class who suffers from quite severe dyslexia, so he can have the school books as voice books for free, and he can conduct different kind of tests, so he doesn't have to write. He can go with me like outside the class, and I can ask him the questions, and he can answer me, and then I will be the one writing down the answers. And also the support, if there are many children in the class who are having this special needs student status, so the class size may be reduced. So that, for example, my own son is with this kind of status, and they only have 14 kids in that group in Helsinki. So it's very nice that the teacher has more time concentrating on all the pupils. Okay, but this was my final slide. And Jari or Ari, would you like to add something? Ari, maybe this ICT slide.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.